Hello everyone, how's it going? Let's see who pops in here. I need to get this so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, it's been a hot minute since I've done this. Let me get set up here. Oh. Yeah, that's a little better. All right. So there's a lot of different ways that I do this, but today I'm just felt like using the whetstones. I really like the whetstones. I use them a lot. Now this initial stone here is a 400 grit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on one side and I'm going to pull backwards towards me. And I might work in one spot and kind of go back and forth. And I'm just trying to get it to roll over that edge. So I want to create a burr on one side. That's my goal. Now this usually depends on how thick it is. Well, like what I like to do a lot of times is your thinnest edge is usually from here to here on the way I grind them. Now up here, I will taper out and leave the tip a little bit thicker sometimes. Hey, what's going on? Miss Donna? I like to leave it just a little bit thicker up towards the tip sometimes, because if you're going to break off the tip, that's usually where it happens. So I kind of taper it out a little bit towards the tip, like say like the last ½ inch or so. I don't always do that, but on like a lot of EDCs or something. But if it's like a skinning knife, I won't do that. But it kind of depends on what it's made for. So these are ground pretty thin. So it doesn't usually take a terrible long time, but still when you're starting from an edge a knife that doesn't have an edge at all, it can take a little bit of time to establish that angle. So a lot of it's muscle memory. Obviously the tip of this will take the longest because it is the thickest, but I don't mind. I say this knife here, for the majority of it, is ground sub 10 thousandths, and then the tip will kind of taper out to maybe like 12, 15, kind of depending on the style of knife. But for a small EDC kind of pocket knife like this, I still keep them pretty thin. You can already see that edge forming. Very small still. I don't like a real big edge because that just, it allows you to have more life into your blade the thinner you grind them. Now obviously it's not a hatchet, so you have to keep that in mind, that a knife is used for slicing or cutting, and obviously there's different types of knives, but for this kind of knife it's made to be slicey. So now with these water stones, I keep them in water. I store them in water. You can't even see what I'm doing. I store them in a container of water, just because, especially these, like this is a 1,000, I broke this one, I dropped it. 1,000, 6,000 grit water stone. It takes a long time for that water to get down in those pores of that stone. So I usually store them in the water. And like this one here is like about a 400 grit. The water will seep through it a lot faster, so you have to keep water on it a lot, and just kind of splash a little water on it. And I say, I'm not being real I guess, impatient on this. I'm kind of taking my time, but a lot of times all I'm doing is as I'm sharpening this, you can see where it's removing metal, and I'll just use a little bit of that water to kind of get it out the way, and it creates a slurry as well, and that helps with the sharpening as well. I say there are lots of ways to do this, so you can kind of see it right there. What am I building? I am just sharpening this knife because it needs to be sent out. It's going to a new home. So I'm gonna get it sharpened up, packaged up today, and sent out. Probably first thing after work tomorrow. Drop it off on the way home. So I say, a lot of times if I have a lot of blade, I will kind of go back and where it's kind of straight in this area, I'll kind of work it on the stone in just that one area. But I'm not really in a big hurry, so I don't mind sometimes. I'll just keep doing this pass all the way. And it says, as you get closer, you'll want to, because I'm going this way with the blade, that burr will come up from this side. And if you feel on the opposite side, you'll feel the burr as it starts to form. But right now I can look at it from the light and I can still see that there's a thickness on that edge. If you have a good light, like sometimes I like a good lamp, or I got my overhead light here, but I got a flashlight sometimes, or even going outside, you'll be able to see that reflection of that light from the flat. That's so you know it's not apex. So you have to apex it before you can create a sharp, because otherwise it's just a smaller flat. It's not actually sharpened. Now, as far as what angle this is, I have no idea. This is just a lot of muscle memory. And I'm not pushing real hard. Putting a little bit of pressure on there, but I'm allowing that stone to do the cutting. And I don't even remember what kind of stone this is, but I do like it because even though it's 400, which isn't like really, really coarse, it cuts really good. It also helps that I grind my blades thin, because if this was like super thick, it would just take a lot longer. So if anybody's got any questions, throw them up there in the comments. I'm sorry if I'm not paying attention. It's been a minute since I've done this, and I feel like sometimes I'm just talking to myself. But it is good to have people. I always enjoy that. I always enjoy helping people learn new stuff. Lurkers. Yeah, people just stand in the background just talking. We're having some good weather today. I wish it was a little bit cooler, but I'm actually getting kind of hot in this hoodie. Not quite there yet. I take too long. Well, you know, I could do it really fast, but what would be the fun in that? And to be fair, this knife does not even have an edge on it at all. I can start to feel it right here. Most times with your knife with your belly, this is the point that is the thinnest when you grind them. So I'm trying to do a really nice job and not remove a whole bunch of metal, because this knife has not ever had an edge on it. I'm just trying to establish a nice uniform edge. Yeah, you can start to feel it. right up here where that belly's forming. Is that what you do? Is that similar to what you do to sharpen my existing knife? If I had a knife that already had been sharpened, I would most definitely probably just use whetstones. A lot of times, especially with knives like this, I'll take them into my grinding room and put the initial bevel in on the grinder, but I realize a lot of people probably don't have that. So I decided to do that here. Now, whenever you're doing this, one, you want to make sure that you don't want to remove more material than you absolutely have to, but you do want to make sure that you remove enough that you are getting a burr, and then you want it even. So if you don't have a burr, you're never gonna make it sharp, because you'll see, I can still feel it right here, but you see it's starting there. You want me to start on a sharpened knife? Well, I could do that. This knife does need to be sharpened. Let me see, if I did that, then I could take this one, put that one here. Here's another one very similar to it. It could be touched up. I took this one yesterday, and just for, they call it giggles, I decided to chop it through a nail just to see what happens. That's why I asked about doing it faster. Yeah. So this one already has bevels in it, so it doesn't need this 400 grit stone. I'll just go straight to 1,000. And I can already feel the burr on this one. It'll be a lot finer on these higher grit stones. Now this one here is hollow ground in this section, so it's a lot thinner here than it is up here if you look at it this way. So I'm just starting with this flat right now. And that burr is all the way up to this point. So now, because these are two different bevels, I'll start here with this one and just work that tip in. And say, once you have an established edge, it's way easier to keep it sharp than it is to start from scratch. All right, so we have a burr all the way down this thing. Let me go to the other side. And I'm just gonna push that burr back to the other way. And it really honestly doesn't take that long. Now, as far as how high to go, that's really up to you. If I have like maybe a chef's knife or something that needs a little bit more polished edge, this stone on the backside is a 6,000. So I have a 1,000 and a 6,000 grit stone. That's about as high as I'll go. I have a 10,000, but I don't use that as much. So I have a burr on both sides. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go back and forth a little bit and kind of move that burr back, and then I'm gonna strop it. And then what I'll do is I'll dry it off a little bit and see how well it cuts. I like to use the really thin notebook paper or magazine paper, because that will let you know if you have any burrs left on it. You'll be able to tell how it cuts. But as far as I call this like a working knife, 1,000 grit to me is good. Somewhere between 6 and 1,000. I like that because it gives you just a little bit of a toothy edge, and I can feel that on here. So let me dry this off. And get the water off of it. And then I'm gonna hit it with this strop a couple times. Just alternating back and forth. Just trying to work anything off. And this strop does have a little bit of rouge on it, but okay. Ooh, that's got some bite to it. All right, so this is just some yellow brick. Anytime I see this, anybody doesn't want them, I just grab them and put them in my folder or in my drawer. So once you have that, you want to make sure it's cleaned off good, because if you got any kind of stuff on there, that will affect it. But then, okay, see how you might have a little bit of a hang up right here. But sometimes even cutting through this a couple times will start to clear that. I can feel a little bit, right? So there's a little bit right here I can feel when it's cutting. But still, that cut pretty well. I hope you can be able to see that. All right, let's try it again. That's much better. I like to try. Now, see, the thing that always gets me is there's a transition in this. So it does cut different. There's a little bit. That's got some big teeth on it. I like it. This cuts really well at this grit. Even if it doesn't cut like really fine cutting, the way this is with this, right at that 1,000 to 800 grit, still has these little teeth, and I really like the way it cuts. I don't have a lot of hair, but I mean, you can kind of see. I mean, that thing is just popping. So that's all really it is. You just got to get one side established so that you push that burr all the way up from one side, and then the other. See, this one, well, it already had an angle on it, already ground. I said I took this one yesterday and did a video with it where I chopped through this nail. And did it mess it up? Yeah, a little bit. It kind of deformed the edge a little bit, but it wasn't bad. I actually wanted to just see what it did. That's one of my my shop knives. I have a strop, but not a whetstone yet. I say the whetstones are really, I think this one, I really like this one. I think this is a king. They're not terribly expensive, but I really like the whetstones. They're simple, they're not super expensive, they're not complicated. I don't terribly like the really wide ones. I kind of like the 2-inch ones. If you have a little bit of curves in them, they're easier to get around. And sometimes on the one I use a lot, I kind of round it off the edges a little bit. So if you have like a little bit of a recurve, I'll still sharpen them on a flat stone. But it just makes that part a little bit easier. So hopefully you can see that actually did not take that long to do on a knife that already has a bevel. But like I said, this one does not. But I can start to feel it coming in. So hope that helps. So, but I just wanted to jump on here and see how everybody was doing. Hope everybody's having a great day. And I tell you what, Miss Dawn, if that helped you out some, I am glad I did this today, because I say I haven't done one of these in a while, and if I can help somebody out, I am so glad that I could do that. And I tell you what, this hoodie is starting to warm up. I'm ready for this fall weather, and it's getting back up in the 70s in the afternoon, and I'm not really crazy about that at all. I'm ready for, they're supposed to be in the 20s next week, and I'm honestly looking forward to that. So what do I think of a butcher's steel? I honestly don't use them. I mean, I like the ceramic ones. The steel, because they're cutting so much, the steel, if you run into bones or anything, so the way the steel is designed, it doesn't actually sharpen the knife. What happens is the same as when you're sharpening, you're pushing that burr back one way or another. The edge is like teeth. Even under like a microscope, it's like little teeth. And so what happens is if you're cutting and you're running up against those bones, a lot of times when you're butchering, those teeth kind of get like rolled over. And what happens is with that burr, it's got those little edges around it, it straightens that edge back out. So eventually at some point you do have to resharpen it, but what that steel is doing is realigning all that, the edge, the actual like little mini serrations. I like the ceramic ones, on my kitchen knives. If I'm using that, I'll just kind of hit it with that every once in a while, and it saves you from having to resharpen the blade. I don't really like the steel ones as much because it's kind of like diamond stones. They're a lot more aggressive. They get the same thing done, but they're just a lot more aggressive, and I don't particularly care for that. That's just me, but I prefer to be able to keep as much steel on the blade as possible. They work. Some people like them, and if you're in a hurry, I guess if that's what you're more concerned about, then, but I'm not super crazy about them. You don't have enough wood split? Yeah. I used to split wood all summer when I was younger. That was me and my brother's job. And Dad wouldn't tell us how much to split. He just said, if you think that's enough, you know. And so if winter came and we didn't have enough firewood, it was us taking turns to go split more firewood that was frozen. So I think that was his way of just making us chop more wood and never actually telling us when we could stop. I think he was trying to just keep us out of trouble. So I can feel a lot of this burr from about here to here now. It's a little bit right here, but not as defined as this here. It's going to come right up into this belly. So like I said, the tip of it is starts to thicken up a little bit to help with some of that rigidity. Those are usually the 2 points that take the longest, is your tip and your starting points, your starting and your ends. Like I said, a lot of times if I got a lot of these, I will take them out to where my grinder is, and I'll do them that way. But I don't know, sometimes I just like doing this way if I'm not in a big hurry or anything like that. I don't have much going on. Sometimes I'll just throw a movie on, sharpen knives, and do them like that. So since I only have the tip and the bangs, I'm not going to keep sharpening that belly because I already have a burr there. I'm just going to leave it alone. So I'm just going to kind of focus on this tip of it. Yeah, you can feel it coming in now. Has anybody been in the stores here the last couple days? It seems like right after Halloween, they just start throwing up stuff for Christmas, and it's really kind of annoying sometimes. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way. Like, I like when we go into the holiday season, but I hate going into stores afterwards. It's like I try to avoid them. Yeah, it's starting to come up now. Just gotta spend a little extra time and I say just a couple minutes or two extra spent on it to establish a good burr will pay off than having to start all over. Like I said, once with these, this is not really a heavy grit either. I have like a 120, but I hate doing that. But like I said, if I'm using it to just like knock out like a chopper or something like that, where I don't really care about the edge that much, I'll do that. But it's just a long way to start all the way at 120 or 220 even. Yeah, we got it. All right, so we have a burr all the way down this thing now on this one side. So here's the one side, and then there's a burr all the way down now. So the only thing I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go to the other side, and it will push that edge back a lot faster because you've already apexed it. It's just going to push it back the other way. But now all you want to do is just match that grind basically on the other side. So if you're grinding it on a machine or anything like that, you're just going to match that same height. And it's way easy to do that and mess it up on a machine. But and maybe that's why sometimes I just prefer to do it by hand. You can kind of see what you're doing, but everybody has their preferences. Oh, yes. Last year my Lowe's had, yeah, so yeah, absolutely. I hate just like the over, just buy this, buy this, just like giant inflatables everywhere. I think I went in there one day to get like charcoal or like pellets for the smoker or something like that. And it was just so obnoxious to have all this stuff in there. I just wanted one bag so I could cook dinner that night. And I almost get to the point where I don't even want to go in stores anymore. I feel like I'm becoming like a grumpy old man. See, already I can feel it pushing that burr back on the other side. But this grind here on this height is not here. So even though I have a burr, that burr is kind of like, you know, if this burr height is up here and this one's kind of right here, you kind of want to push it back because those opposing forces are going to give you a much stronger edge than if it's off to one side, and it'll cut weird too. I am a grumpy old man. I feel like it some days, I'm telling you. I don't have grass like I yell at kids with, but I feel like I could get into that. Like just sit on the front porch and just drink coffee and yell at kids. You think something's wrong with those people, then you start to understand them. Be like, yeah, that guy totally just wants to be left alone. He's not bothering anybody. He just wants everybody else just to leave him alone. Like the Grinch. He's gonna be a nice little cutter. I did some testing with mine and did some things I really shouldn't do. Maybe I don't know if I'll make that video or not. It definitely needs to be edited. It's kind of short, maybe like 5-6 minutes, but just seeing what it could do, doing stuff you really shouldn't be doing. But this one has a lot more simplistic edge, and I honestly think it's a little bit more useful as a utilitarian blade. And I kind of like that a lot more. So yeah, that's a good burr on there. Now you want to be mindful when you're going on this opposite side. So let me talk about this. It's hard sometimes to explain what I'm doing, and it's a feel. But once you have that initial bevel on the other side, when you go to the other side, and even with a knife that's sharpened, I'll take the blade onto the stone and I'll lift it up until you can see that blade is touching. You don't want it like this, like the apex. You want that apex where it just touches it. And when you get a feel for that, you'll be able to tell when you're kind of, you can look and sharpen actual higher up on the bevel, or when you're just hitting that point where that edge is meeting. You'll be able to feel it. You'll also be able to feel, especially when you start on a new grit, when you've kind of smoothed that out. Because as I say, they'll be a lot rougher, and then as you go up in higher grit, you'll be able to tell once you kind of hit that spot where it's kind of leveled out that area. And say a lot of it's feel. It's hard to explain sometimes, where you gotta get it into your hands. And a lot of it's practice, but there are things that help. There are guides that help, I guess. I've always just used stones. So I have a little spot right here that needs to match up. And you'll probably notice, even with you or like myself, I notice that one side is easier for me than it is for the other side, and that's absolutely normal. So don't think you're the only one. So all right, we just need to get the tip now. Spend a little extra minute here. Okay, so I think we are there. This thing is, I'm telling you, this thing is going to be popping. All right, so we have that edge all the way down on both sides, looking pretty good. And we have a good, I'm talking, I don't even know if you can see this. I doubt you can see this, but I can definitely feel that burr all the way down. And that's what you want. And with the higher hardness steels, that burr will just, it's so much easier to sharpen a harder blade. It might take longer, but with the softer steels, you're just pushing metal back and forth, and it's so hard to get it to stay. I mean, that might seem harder thing to communicate that somehow, I know, but I need to move this to the edge a little bit. So this stone here is 1,000 grit, and I say once you've established, it does not take nearly as long. So all you're doing here is you're kind of polishing that edge, and I'm pushing that bevel or that burr back to the other side now. And it'll get smaller and smaller. Yes. So that's exactly right. As you're grinding, you know, if the point is like this and you start to grind, that burr is that metal you're pushing, and because it's hardened, it kind of hangs on. And then you grind, and it pushes it back the other way. And then like I say, as you go back and forth, you kind of work that edge back and forth, and you'll push that back till it kind of comes to a nice point, and you got to get rid of this extra material. That's when you go to that sharpen. It kind of works that point back and forth until it breaks off, and you actually have your apex. Now, a lot of times when you sharpen a knife and you feel, oh, this got a lot of really, really big teeth on it, and it feels like it's really sharp, it's not actually sharp. You still have the burr, and that's what you're feeling is all these teeth that feel like they're cutting really aggressively. You gotta knock those off, and then you'll feel where you pull it on your thing. It really wants to bite, and like I say, when you get a toothy edge, you shouldn't have this feeling on the edge where you can feel it over thing. You want to get rid of that. Otherwise, you'll never really get to your edge. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. So as you sharpen and you start to go back and forth, like now I'm going to go back the other way. Oh, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know. You see it right there. That's the burr coming off now because I've stepped up on the stone. That's that little wired edge. And it's, as you stone the stone, it's going to push that until it breaks off. And that's all you're wanting to do all the way across. And say, as you step up in stones, you can do that. You could go higher and higher and higher until that thing just goes away. The strop will kind of do that as well. And it kind of, a lot of people don't want to go up to like, 20,000 grit stone. Just because, we all have things to do in our life. But you can do it with the stones. And as you go up, it will knock that burr off. And the next one will get finer and finer and finer. So, like I say, if you're sharpening, I can see it on here. I'll actually push itself up as it goes across the stone. It's hard to see. I say it's hard for this camera to pick up. There's a little bit right here, but hopefully I saw that one pop up there, and you could see it pretty good. You'll be able to see it, and it'll break off. And that point, what you're doing is you're polishing it. And I say that's why I use that notebook or that phone book paper. You'll be able to feel how that cuts, especially when you get used to how it's supposed to feel. You'll be able to feel when it kind of like hangs up a little bit. Even with a pretty rough edge, it should cut cleanly. But at a certain point, it's kind of like how sharp is sharp enough. But you should be able to feel it as you're cutting through that paper. And a lot of it, sometimes it's sound too. You'll be able to hear, like there's definitely a difference in the sound that it makes. And see, even now, like I'm getting little shards of steel on the stone. Like there's a piece that just come off. I don't know if you can even see that. Not really. No. Oh, there it is. See it? So that edge come off there. And I can feel it. It's pushing it back on this side. And sometimes what I like to do is go up to a higher grit stone that I want to finish on and hit it a couple times, and that'll polish that edge, and then I'll go back down a step and hit it a couple times to kind of rough it up. It sounds kind of weird, but like when you're going from like 6,000 grit to 1,000 grit, that 6,000 will really polish those edges so that when you're cutting through things, you're creating less friction, which makes it easier to cut. But by stepping back down, you're hitting those teeth again to kind of give it a little bit more tooth. It's be a little more aggressive cutting. It will cut more aggressive. And it sounds kind of counterintuitive that you would want to polish it up and then rough it up. But it does work sometimes. It depends on how you want the knife to cut. Because if you get a really polished edge and you're wanting to cut something abrasive like a rope, a polished edge will push cut through a rope pretty good. But if you're like trying to cut through it, it doesn't have enough teeth to grab the rope. It'll kind of just push it out the way. But like a kitchen knife, you want that polished edge because you're push cutting. You're not like trying to use those teeth to cut, like a saw cuts. Yeah. So how you sharpen your knife kind of determines how you're wanting to use it. Like I said, if you're doing a skinning knife or something like that, you kind of want some teeth on there because you want to cut through that hide or different things like that. So some of it depends on the steel as well. Some steels cut better at certain grits. Like I said, this is my 6,000 grit stone. And a lot of times I don't like to go higher than that, or just what I call a utility knife, a working knife. I feel like it gives it a nice polished edge, but it's still aggressive enough to cut some stuff like ropes and different things like that. And as I kind of get to where I'm finishing, I will lighten up my pressure, because I say you're going back and forth, back and forth. You're kind of wanting to kind of slowly get that peak to form. So when I go to my strop, I can get rid of that burr completely, and I can kind of feel like this has got some tooth to it, and I really like that. Some of it's the steel, like this is the 80 CRV2. 52-100 is like that too. It's got a really toothy edge, and I kind of like that as well. Versus like 01. 01 has a really fine edge. So I don't know if we're there yet, but we'll try it. I don't know what I do with my strop now. Oh, here it is. We'll see how it looks. Sometimes I got to get it cleaned off to see what I'm looking at. So once you start going here, you should feel if there's anything. Sometimes you can feel it even on here. Like I say, this has a little bit of rouge on it, so that helps a little bit with polishing that edge. I don't know if you can kind of see. It's not like super polished, but it definitely has a little sheen on it. All right, let me see if I can get a new piece of paper. We'll see how it cuts. Sometimes you got to go back, you know. It's not like, oh, I totally messed up. You know, you're not. You just keep going until you're happy with the way it cuts. It's not bad. I can feel it hanging up a little bit. There's a little bit right here I can feel. And there's a couple little spots. This thing would cut really good still, even now. And I said, cutting really thin material like this will really show you. See, there's a little spot right here where it kind of, you see it kind of like that. Once it gets past that, it cuts a lot better. So that if you, I feel like I'm stumbling over my words, like trying to communicate. But if you notice, like right here, it's got a spot where it's hanging up, like right there. But once it gets past that, it cuts a lot better. So that tells you that there's some spot right in here somewhere that just has something that's kind of hanging up, just an extra little snaggle tooth or something, you know, that's kind of getting in the way. So sometimes I'll just, you know, you just keep going on the stone a little bit, going back to the strop until you kind of work that out. It gets to the point with some of these stones, you're at high enough grit, it's hard to tell just by looking. Like sometimes you can actually see that burr all the way across there, but the higher up you go by feel, you feel how it cuts and stuff like that. But I say, even now, this thing would cut really, really well. I don't know if I have anything else to cut. And this is just cardboard, but I mean, that cuts cardboard like it's supposed to. So this is at the point where you're being kind of picky, but so what I'll do here, just because I'm feeling like it, this is the 6,000 grit side. I will hit it on here to see if we can polish off that last little bit of that burr that was hanging up. And especially like this one, I like. This one is actually softer than the other side, it feels like. It feels like that. What's going on? It feels a little bit softer to me. And it allows me to feel some of that burr a little bit better. But this side will definitely polish an edge. You could sit here for as long as you want and do this, but I don't like to do it too much, because like I said, you lose some of that teeth. But this is feeling pretty good. Okay. Now make sure you get all that stuff off the edge. All right, now let's see how it does now. Still just a little bit there. Oh, that's way better now. It's right there at the beginning. I'll say once it gets here, feels really good. But it's just right here. So what I'll do, I'll kind of break it up into sections when I'm doing this sometimes. I'll test the tip, I'll test the middle, I'll test the edge. That's why it kind of looks like I don't just cut it all at once. I'm kind of testing different sections to kind of see, you know, did you get it all? There's sometimes you can kind of overlook certain parts and it feels like it's cutting better. It all feels good. Well, like sometimes I'll just get the tip. Okay. That cuts way better now. Was that on camera? I don't know if that was. So now it's gone. Whatever I did there, I don't know if I just hit it a couple more times on that strop, but that little grab there is gone now. So that thing is biting. A lot of times you can tell. So if you do this a lot, like the other one I hit my arm with it. If you sharpen knives all the time, you'll look like you'll have mange, so I don't do that all the time. If you just take your nail and you can just put a little bit of backwards pressure on there, you'll feel that thing just wanting to bite. And that's what that thing's doing right now. So hopefully that helps somebody if they have questions about that. But I'm gonna finish getting this thing packed up and try to get it out of here tomorrow. Hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Appreciate it.